Hey guys, Bettina here. Can we just have a little chat today about postpartum recovery, getting your body back, being gentle with yourself, and just feeling good in your body after having a baby? I will apologize in advance. This may end up being a little bit ranty. I've been feeling a little bit angry around this topic recently, and I've been having conversations with friends about things that they're doing after having a baby, even some of them years after having a baby, and how little time and energy is put into recovering our bodies from the inside out, and how they're now suffering. They've jumped straight back into exercise that is not designed for the postpartum body, and their internal muscles aren't strong enough to support the body to do all these things that you're asking of it. So I want to talk to you today about where to start if you are early postpartum, how to work with the body safely, know when you're ready to start getting back into it, the things that I've done wrong myself, because hands up, I've wanted to jump back into exercise too soon and done injury to myself. So lessons I've learned as well. So we're going to be talking about all of that in today's video. Before we get into it though, if you are brand new here, welcome. My name is Bettina. I'm a yoga teacher. I specialize in fertility, pregnancy, birth, and early motherhood. I have 3 boys of my own. The youngest is 4 months old. So I myself am in that postpartum period. And everything I'm sharing with you today is either from my own personal experience or working with women who've had babies who come into my yoga studio. So I want to start here with having patience, because that's my lesson at the moment. I think it's probably most helpful to talk from my perspective and what I guess I have learned recently. So it's probably about a month ago now. I was 3 months postpartum. I was starting to feel good in my body again. I'd been doing pelvic floor exercises and gentle core recovery. My core was starting to come back together. I was feeling good. I wasn't having any pelvic floor issues, but I wasn't doing any strenuous exercise. And I was thinking, yeah, like this is great. My body's come back really well, and I was feeling good. And I felt like I wanted to get into doing more because my body is still holding onto a little bit of extra weight. And I was like, right, I'm going to get into it and get sweaty and do a little bit more than just my usual yoga practice. So I started doing some things that I don't normally do, running up and down stairs, more sort of HIIT style workouts, still only body weight. I wasn't really using any weights or anything, just my own body weight, but more jumping and sort of running and things like that. Bad move. Probably only a couple of days after I did the first couple that my lower back started really hurting, my pelvis, and it wouldn't hurt all the time, but I'd kind of, if I stepped funny, like if I walked on uneven ground, I'd be like, oh, and I'd like literally have to breathe through the pain of it. And then it was like, oh, okay, it's gone, cool. I was like, this isn't good. This has always been my weak area. I had quite an unstable pelvis from Rory's pregnancy. And then I was quite good with Lucas because I knew how to not overstretch, and I was really quite protective of it, but it's definitely my weak area. And when you're still breastfeeding, I should have known this, that all those hormones are still in the body. So the relaxin's still in the body and it's still releasing. Everything is still released, basically. It's not as strong and supported as it was. So I should have known better, but I didn't. And I pushed a little bit too hard and I was in pain. So I spoke to a friend of mine and she recommended seeing a chiro, and I agreed with that because I felt like it wasn't a muscle pain because it wasn't there all the time. I hadn't pulled a muscle. It was literally felt like alignment wasn't right in my pelvis, and I was hoping that I could just get adjusted and it would fix it. Unfortunately, it didn't. So I went to see a chiro. She was great and she specialized in postpartum, which was awesome. She was also breastfeeding, so kind of had that personal experience with it. And she pretty much went straight to testing my core, so testing for abdominal separation. I'll link a video above if you want to check out whether you have any abdominal separation, but I really do recommend going and seeing a physio or a chiro who can check it properly for you. And so she sort of checked right from the top all the way down to the bottom. I already knew that the bottom area was a lot weaker than the top, so that was nothing surprising. And then she checked my pelvic floor. So she was just putting her hands, I don't know if you can see. So I was laying down and she kind of had her hands quite low here on my pelvis. And she asked me to engage my pelvic floor and release it. And as she did that, she was, I guess, feeling for this lower core and how it was engaging. And what became really obvious is my pelvic floor was a lot weaker than I thought. And those bigger muscles have come in to support, which is kind of letting my pelvic floor muscles get away with being a little bit weak and supporting my body, but it's not kind of optimal. My pelvis is not well supported from core and pelvic floor. So it became pretty obvious that these are things that I really need to work on before I get back into any sort of running or anything more high intensity jumping, etc. Because if I don't, all that's going to happen when I'm doing those activities, I'll be able to do them, but the bigger muscles are going to come in and do the work. The little internal muscles in the core and the pelvic floor are possibly going to be even further injured. So here's where I get a little bit ranty. So many of my friends, after having a baby, jump back into HIIT, F45, CrossFit. Oh, shall I go on? So any of these really intense, even power flow yoga can be bad. And I'm a power flow yoga teacher, so even a really intense power flow yoga class is not great for your body if you haven't strengthened that core and pelvic floor first. And I know why you want to jump back into it. I do too. I'm like busting to get moving and busting to get back into feeling strong in my body again. But it's just not worth it. It's not worth having prolapse when you're 80. It's not worth having issues with incontinence because you didn't have the patience in these early stages to really rebuild the pelvic floor and core well now so it can support your body. So where am I at now? Basically every day I have a dedicated pelvic floor and core practice. So it's engaging that pelvic floor, working at really subtly engaging without gripping with all these other muscles and just reconnecting, I guess, brain to pelvic floor, because there is a disconnect. I've had injuries down there, and you know what it's like after having a baby. There's kind of this big disconnect between those areas. Someone wanted to join us for the end of the video. The things I'm doing at the moment don't even really look like anything. I literally look like I'm lying on my mat for 10 minutes doing nothing, but it's really subtle movements. I'll try and include a clip here of the sort of stuff that I've been doing. Really gentle. I'm not even really sweating. It's not a workout, and it's hard. It's hard to be really patient and do these things when really what I want to do is something big and active and feel like I'm getting results externally, because that's where we focus, the external. You want to see results. Yeah, that's the lesson that I've been learning, and I don't think I'm alone in needing to be a lot more patient with my body. And yes, I could jump back into more strenuous exercise, and yes, my body, my external body would probably change and I probably would lose that weight faster. But to be honest, internally I wouldn't be good, and I'd be putting my body at risk of injury, and it's just not worth the risk. All right, so if you are in the same position, if you're early postpartum and you're like, okay, cool, I need to be patient, but where the hell do I start? I'd start number one with getting your core checked. So checking for abdominal separation. So like I said, I'll link that video down below so you can check your core, but I do recommend seeing a physio, especially someone who specializes in pelvic floor and core after having a baby, or a chiro. Get your pelvic floor checked and learn how to do those pelvic floor exercises properly. So I have a video in my online yoga circle where I talk to Lucy, who is an exercise physiologist, and she goes through how to activate those muscles properly. So not just kind of like gripping, which it's really easy to do. Hey, I was doing it wrong. I was doing too much with the external muscles instead of really subtly engaging the right muscles. So she goes through how to engage those muscles properly. I think you need to commit to doing it. Like for me, it was, I sort of would say, yeah, I do my pelvic floor exercises, but to be honest, it was probably once or twice a week. It needs to be daily. It needs to be a regular practice. And it's hard when you've got little ones to make that time. But I think we need to for our own recovery. And I think it's worth it if you can do those small little movements, that small recovery now. It's going to be worth it in the long run. Got a few videos on my channel now for early postpartum recovery, so check those out. Again, it's not a huge amount that we're doing. It's quite subtle. It doesn't make you feel like you've had a workout. I'm really sorry, but I think you need to start back at the basics. And if you do feel like you need to, do like a proper workout, get a little bit sweaty, for your mental health, which I totally understand and I'm with you on that one, maybe start with walking. Start with just going for a fast-paced walk. Whilst you're walking, see if you can focus on engaging the core and pelvic floor. So it's not too strenuous on the body, but it's also helping you to feel like, yes, I've actually done something. Swimming is also great. You can get that puff going on in the body without putting any excess pressure on the pelvic floor or core. So the recovery can still happen and you can still feel like you're getting a proper workout at the same time. And so I think the last thing that we need to do when it comes to postpartum recovery is also work on a little bit of acceptance. And like I shared with you before, when it came to patience, this is my lesson too. Accepting what our body looks like now, accepting that it's changed, accepting that it may never look like it used to look. Not complacently, like not like, oh well, it's ruined, but just like, I can still be strong, but these are the things I have to do to be strong. And my body went through massive changes over 9+ months and still continues to change if you're breastfeeding. And I think it's coming back to that place of finding acceptance, being proud of what your body did, and rather than trying to push and force it back into some sort of ideal or what it looked like before, really working to do the mental and the emotional stuff to accept where it is now, to be really happy where it is now, so that you can rebuild slowly and strongly and properly without doing anything crazy and hurting yourself in the process. All right, so that's it from me. I hope this video was helpful in some way. I just wanted to share how my journey is going at the moment, I guess, and where I've needed to learn a lot of patience. I would love to know how you went postpartum, how your body recovered. Did you feel it recovered quickly? Do you still feel like you're recovering? Because some women, many years after having a baby, are still recovering. They don't have that strong pelvic floor or core anymore. And maybe it's taken them 3 years, 4 years, 5 years to get back into exercise. And they're only just noticing it now. They're just noticing that their pelvic floor is not what it used to be. So let me know in the comments or send me an email. I always love hearing from you. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I would love if you would subscribe and join me in the next video. Otherwise, I'll see you in the